It is 5:30 p.m. And I will call this meeting in order. Good evening, everyone. This is the Housing Commission, October 23rd, 5:30 p.m. And we are a quorum, so we can begin our business. The first order of business was for me to just remind us that there are people out there who don't know that. You can't tell that, but they are. And so we welcome them to our meeting. This is the second meeting that we've had where we are actually open to the public online. So welcome to everyone. We will first start with roll call, please.
Chair Cunningham,
Here.
Vice Chair Narayan,
Here.
Commissioner Joes, Commissioner Sripathi, Commissioner Jindi.
Here. Thank you. Second item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Subject is to approve the minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes that anyone would like to make at this time? I hear, huh?
I have no comments. I
Okay,
make a motion to approve it.
okay, do I hear a second? Second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the meeting of September 25th. Can we take a vote?
Chair Cunningham,
Aye.
Vice Chair Narayan,
Aye.
Commissioner Joes, Commissioner Sripathi,
Aye.
Commissioner Jindi.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. That was agenda item 1. Good evening.
Evening.
Next item on the agenda is a postponements. Do we have any?
None.
And the next is oral communications. Residents of the meeting will go first and Zoom on second. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Oral communication.
We have one speaker on Zoom, Chair.
Okay. And no Zoom, no speakers in the hall. Okay. Go ahead and allow that person to speak.
Okay, one moment. Welcome, San Ro. Can you hear me?
To congratulate Commissioner Sripathi on his appointment and to wish him the best in his new role as Housing Commissioner. I have known Commissioner Sripathi for a long time, and it is a source of pride to us in the Indian American community in Cupertino to see another capable and distinguished member of our community appointed to the Housing Commission. I hope Commissioner Sripathi will work for the interests of residents of Cupertino and make sure that the residents of Cupertino are represented regardless of whether they're writing in and showing up to speak up. And so that will be my comment for today. And I wish Commissioner Sripathi all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no other hands raised on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, at this time then, I can close the oral communications. And we can move on to the consent calendar. Do we have any consent calendar business?
We do not.
Next is old business. Do we have any old business?
No old business.
Okay, so with new business, the agenda item is the fiscal year 2026-27 housing funding notice of funding availability, which is the NOFA, and colloquially known, and request for proposals. The recommended action is to receive the informational presentation on the FY 26-27 housing funding NOFA. And I will just make a note that because there is no approval required for this agenda item, the vote will be to close the item after hearing the presentation. Questions and comments are welcome, but that's more for information than anything, but feel free to ask questions after liaison Mickey Wu has presentation. Can you make your presentation? No.
I can. Thank you, Chair. So tonight, The first item on the agenda is the announcement of the 2026-27 Notice of Housing Program Funding Availability, also known as the NOFA. So for some background on this item, every single year, we put out a request for proposals for eligible capital housing projects and low-income public service programs to be recipients of the city's funding and other funding that the city acts as a pass-through agency for that receive either from HUD or from HCD. The application period for it starts on November 3rd, 2025, and then it will close in February 3rd, 2026. So that's how long the nonprofits will have to apply. This year, there are two funding sources in the NOFA. The first is the below market rate affordable housing fund, or BMR AHF. Funding source is a funding source that's collected from building permits. Its purpose is to essentially build, preserve, rehabilitate, acquire low-income deed restricted affordable housing. The second is Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG. This is a federal funding source. It comes to us from HUD, or Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's a federal funding source, meaning we receive it from them through a formula grant. That's what we produce our annual 1-year action plans and our 5-year con plans for. This one is primarily a public infrastructure grant with a set aside for public services to low-income folks. Last year, if you guys remember, our NOFA had the public service and capital housing portions of the NOFA. We award public service grants on a 2-year basis. This is to kind of remove some of the administrative glut of running the program, especially for nonprofits. It's a big ask, right? To ask them to reapply for the same funding every year. So we award that at a 2-year funding cycle, meaning if you are a public service currently receiving funding from the City of Cupertino, we will renew your contract for next year, but it will be adjusted based on what our allocation is that we get, right, from the federal government. So what is on the NOFA this time is for eligible capital housing projects, right? Capital housing projects include these categories I have up there: land acquisition, new construction, housing preservation, public building and home rehabilitation, and public infrastructure improvements. The way to think about it is anything involving construction, right? If it's for housing, it's got to be deed restricted low income housing. If it is a public building, or if it's a public infrastructure thing, it's got to be something that we can visibly or through data demonstrate that it's going to have a benefit for low mod income populations, right? So a prime example of this is the senior center, right? Generally speaking, seniors, they're on fixed income. They all pretty much qualify, all of them qualify, right, as a low income household. That's an example of a public infrastructure improvement that affects local populations. Another would be any kind of street, curb gutter, sidewalk, or lighting program in a low income neighborhood, right? Because we would assume that low income people live on this neighborhood. So if we fix it up there, that is a low income infrastructure improvement. So these are the funding amounts that are announced in this year's NOFA. In the BMR AHF fund, about $1,100,000. This is adjusted for the amount that we have to budget for housing enforcement, right? That's housing discrimination. And then finally, CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, we are expecting this grant adjusted for how much we have to give to public services and administration, about $280,000 to be available with CDBG. Now, I will mention one caveat, right? One asterisk. This is assuming that the CDBG program continues to receive its annual funding. As you all know, currently the funding stream from the federal government is a bit unstable, and there are many things that are to be determined. For example, right now, the federal government is currently shut down, right? So no one is actually receiving CDBG funds right now. Many things can impact the program. So the CDBG program and its viability in the future, we think will continue to survive, but there's many things that go into that. So we have to just kind of account for that. All right, so target populations. As I mentioned, any kind of projects that we will be trying to address with this NOFA, we would want it to primarily benefit low and mod income persons and households. And in addition to that, things that can get special consideration is if they address any of the special needs housing that was identified in our housing element, right? As we are contractually obliged to do in our commitments in the housing element. So any kind of project that specifically addresses, formerly homeless persons, seniors, people with disabilities, transition aid, special needs households, not mentioned also as educator housing, right? These are all special needs populations that was identified in our housing element. So these would get special consideration if there are any projects applying for our funding. All right, the process to apply. We ask people to go into this website, citydataservices.net, and I will walk them through how to submit an application. There will be 3 public hearings related to the awarding of this funding. First, in March, there will be a housing commission kind of recommendation, right? And that's the one where all the different applicants typically come and they make a presentation to the council, to the commission. And the council will make a decision on how much they wish to award to each different applicant. Then there's a draft that is made in April. That one, we also create the annual plan for CDBG, right? That's where we draft the annual plan. And then finally, all things have to get approved by the city council. So that will be the 3rd public hearing that gets done for this process. So for all of our new applicants who might be online or returning applicants who need a quick refresher, this is what the City Data Services website looks like. When you log in, that's the first webpage. If you already work with the city, you have a login and a username. If you are new, I will tell you what your username and password will be. CUP 2026. That's your username, and your password is the same thing, CUP 2026. So that's how you can submit your application on the website. Now, this is what the application looks like. You put in just the basics of your organization, right? Name, address, who's your director, location, and the project description. This is how we can vet that this is a eligible program for our funding sources, right? And if it's not eligible, then that's where we do the first round of vetting. We just say you don't apply, you can't apply for the funding, right? On the next page, we ask that you provide an estimate on who is the target population you expect to serve in 1 year of operations. Specifically, in a breakdown by like what level of low income, right? There's extremely, very low and low, moderate and above moderate. So that we can see if, what level of affordability you're targeting, as well as if there's any special needs populations, right? Like we said, there's need for seniors and stuff like that. So of course, any kind of funding through CDBG specifically, it's got to help us further our goals that are identified in our 5-year consolidated plan. And so we ask that you mark on the application which of the goals that your program would help us meet. This helps us determine eligibility, but also helps us understand that you are familiar, right, with HUD requirements and that you will be able to work with the federal government as well. At the last page is the most important page, right? That is the budget. So that is when you put in your total ask as well as how you plan to spend that money throughout. So this NOFA was posted in the public newspaper on October 10th. We are also announcing it with this meeting and with this presentation on October 23rd. As I mentioned, important dates. NOFA opens on November 3rd. It'll be posted to the website for anyone who wants a copy of it, and you can also send it out through email. The NOFA will close on February 3rd, so all applications in by then, please. And then the Housing Commission will reconvene to make decisions on this in March. With that, actually, let's open it up to the commission for any clarifying questions.
Do you have any clarifying questions? Raise your hand if you have. Commissioner Sheen.
Are the nonprofits, especially the ones who have received funds in the past, will get a direct notification about the application period?
Yes, we send out an email blast.
And any other nonprofits in the community?
Yes, so we try to update it, try to do our own research to see if there's any new nonprofits that popped up that also could be, a good recipients for this, and we try to reach out to them as well.
So it's easy to lose this important notification if it just published online or via this meeting only.
And that's also why we posted in the newspaper as well, to try to get just the biggest reach.
I have a question.
Yes.
So this is basically just organization that is gonna propose a project for the low income, moderate income.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily for nonprofit organizations, right? It is open for-profit
No.
organizations or not?
That's a great question. So for the CDBG funding by regulation, right, they have to be a nonprofit registered, like non-for-profit organization. And then for the BMR funding, it is only for deed restricted low income housing. Generally speaking, you're not gonna see a for-profit organization undertaking that kind of venture.
Yeah.
So really by design, these are really only gonna be nonprofits. Yeah.
Well, follow up to that. So there are nonprofits who doing certain things, right? So what they're proposing will also be based on the same thing that they're already involved in. For example, somebody was working with the senior citizens.
Mhm.
So they're gonna be proposing similar kind of thing.
Yes.
Right? Now, I mean, we've been talking about homelessness
Mhm.
in Cupertino. So at least from the past, we had the funding last year, like we did this in
Mhm.
February, right? I don't recall any organization proposing a project to address homelessness or how to uplift homeless people. Do you remember it? Because it was all like senior citizens, low income, housing, and so I mean, again, I don't
We have
recall any particular.
We had two. One is called Maitri. They are a domestic shelter.
Right.
Technically it's a transitional house. So, you know, when people have to leave their homes because they're afraid of violence in their homes, that is actually a form of homelessness, right? And so that is one program. The other is the West Valley Community Services Haven to Home program. They do housing case management for people that are unstably housed. So there's an assistance portion, and then they also try to like connect them into like say like vouchers or to, you know, various different temporary shelters or job programs. Those would be our two kind of like homelessness assistance programs. But you're right that we don't actually have a shelter, like a general shelter.
I
And
mean, we talked about this in the
Yeah.
last meeting,
Yeah.
like there's no shelter in Cupertino.
Yes.
So if there's something that can, for example, can you or can the city or the commission say to one of these organizations, can you propose,
Yeah.
something to that effect?
Right.
So that helps homeless people in Cupertino.
So we actually are in the progress right now. I say us as in Cupertino, Campbell, Los Gatos, Saratoga, and Monte Sereno, the 5 West Valley cities. We've been undertaking this joint study to see what is the feasibility of us combined, putting together kind of like our land and monetary resources to do a West Valley shelter and or any kind of transitional housing, supportive housing program that could help actually shelter the homeless,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That has been underway. And I think the first half it is completely done, which was kind of like the needs analysis. The second half, which is the feasibility study,
Mhm.
the one that we really are looking for, that is nearing completion as well. And when it is done, I think it would be appropriate, right, to bring to the Housing Commission to discuss like, well, what should be our follow-up items to try to see if we can meet any of these needs.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
to be determined.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
come-
okay.
Yeah.
Keep pushing that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Do we have any, or a comment?
So this funding is only for
Commissioner Srivastava?
organizations to figure out what they want to do, right? Not for actually like helping them buy a home or helping them rent a home, for example. Is that how it works?
So when there are like 5 different levels of like, I would say like our like exiting services to exit people from homelessness, right? And that depends on what we call our acuity, which is like the level of independence they still kind of retain, right? People at the lowest level acuity, so those would be people who are generally speaking, they still have a job, right? Still pretty stable in their life, not addicted to drugs or having kind of mental health issues. What they really need is just a little bit of rental assistance, right? To get them by. And so that's that kind of service. They would be couple months rental assistance. People are a little bit lower on the ladder. They get something called rapid rehousing. It's a longer term, like maybe like up to 10 months, right? And then there's a little bit of job training, a little bit of like, maybe some education training, help them stay stably housed, maybe find them a new career field, right? And a little bit of support services. The next level below that would be the emergency shelter, right? They're not quite ready to be on their own yet, right? They need wraparound services. And then below that, there's transition housing, right? And for that one, they stay in longer term. There's longer support services. There's more like counseling involved. And the lowest level, these are people who have been basically on the streets for years and years and years, likely not going to hold a job, or maybe they have heavy disabilities, right? They're not going to be able to really find that independence. That for them, the only real solution for them is permanent supportive housing, right? That's basically an affordable housing unit that you can stay in as long as you can pay the rent. And there's like a long-term like function of case management, supportive services to help. Yeah. So long-term, sorry, that was a long answer, right? But basically that's how you get people out of homelessness, right? Yeah.
No, but the but the assistance that we give these organizations,
Yeah.
are they to just generate reports? Are they to help people actually?
So the two organizations I mentioned, the Haven to Home program through West Valley Community Services, that one would qualify as like the homeless prevention and sort of rapid housing, but not yet, right? It's almost there. But it's really more homeless prevention. And then the Maitri domestic violence shelter, that one is akin to like a transitional housing program, right? Yeah.
Okay, I have a question that I would like to bring up at this time. Although you look like you wanted to ask one, Commissioner Shinde, would you like to go ahead?
I can wait. Okay.
No,
Right.
please go ahead.
So Nikki, in one of the slides, I believe you say those funds are allocated for low or moderate income persons or households. However, I noticed on the applications for those nonprofits, they list options whether they serve extremely low or, very low. So if certain organization just serves only this population, does it mean that disqualify from getting the funds since seems like the funds are allocated only for not extremely low? Is that kind of, am I missing anything here?
So there are some organizations, right, who want to serve people regardless of income level. And so if they do that, right, we would ask them to mark that, right, on the thing where it says like extremely low, very low, mod, and then above mod. And then what we would be looking for, right, because we want our funds to be going directed towards the low income populations, is that like they have enough, like say, other funding to like that they could direct their services to the above mod people, so we can make sure that our program is just going to low income people. Yeah, that's something that we would be kind of like judging, right, as part of their application. Yeah.
Oh, Commissioner Joes?
Historically, how have we utilized these funds? Have we maximized the funding that we've received?
Yeah.
And if we haven't, then what opportunity do we have to Commissioner Jindal's question? About, really getting the word out that this is open and these are the timelines for decisions and application deadlines.
So last year in the NOFA, we announced the BMR funding, CDBG funding, local HSG like funding for services, as well as state funding for PLHA, and we awarded all of it out. Yeah, all of it out. I think it was like 4 million in the BMR fund through two different affordable housing projects, 1 million in the PLHA program, 300,000 through the CDBG. Yeah, so we did pretty good.
It was a great meeting.
I was actually gonna ask, that's gonna be my question, like last year, there was like a lot more money,
True.
right?
There were
And
many
we
more
gave
sources
yeah.
as well.
So this time, only two.
Well, and
Sources
as
of
noted earlier, 2 sets of funding
Yeah.
are 2-year grants, so that they
Right,
don't have to go
right, yeah.
through it twice, so
That's
some of that
true.
money is missing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
not missing, it's not shown.
It's just already accounted for.
Yeah.
It's already
not gonna
spoken
be
for.
over this
Yeah.
time.
Right, so these two
It
are
has been
just
awarded.
yearly. That's right, the BMR and the CDBG are
Yeah.
yearly.
So this time, what's up for grabs, anything that goes to any kind of affordable housing development, as well as any kind of public infrastructure project. Yeah, all the public services, their ears are good, right? The funds are spoken for, yeah.
So I did have a question that was a little different. That's why I wanted to say, so we could talk about that. But particularly when you were talking about the funding, from, federal government is an issue. So one of the things I've been thinking is that we should request funding from the city for, CDBG funds if they are not received. For instance, if they don't come in, I mean, we did a lot of funding last year, but hasn't yet been received, and now with the government shutdown, we don't know when it's gonna be received. I, of course, don't know what the status of any of the nonprofits is right now, if they're like stuck and that can't work, or if they can still keep up some things. So that is specifically something that I would like to have the Housing Commission ask of the city, that they provide funding to replace that, which is not being provided. And not just for last year, which we know is, but this coming year, we really have no idea, right, what the federal government is. So that's, and I'm not sure exactly how to put that request in. Do I need to put it in to you, or do we all have to agree to put it in?
I think what would be best is for an official recommendation come from the Housing Commission on that.
Okay.
So, I mean, for our next special meeting, right, we won't have one item on the agenda, so we can add it to the December agenda.
Oh,
We
okay.
want to push that forward. And then we can get an official recommendation of the Housing Commission of like, if they want to make a request to the city council.
Okay.
For additional funding, basically as replacement funding, right? So that we can keep these programs running if,
Keep programs going.
yeah, if the CDBG funding is at risk. Although I think we would probably ask the chair to join us for that city council meeting, because this would become a housing commission request. When we eventually do go to the city council,
When you say you would ask the chair
to come with us to the city council.
oh, come to city council, I'll be here.
In favor of
Oh, okay, to
Yeah.
city council.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just, you're saying just to allocate their budget to
Right,
put
they,
up portions of it for
right.
this kind of
So
fund.
as a replacement fund, and just for those of you who may not be aware, starting now, by November, December is when the budget is being formed. And so this is a really good time if we want to ask for funding, to be asking for it, because at this time, then they're making decisions through all the city, all its programs, and maybe there is some funding that can be made.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't know, but don't hurt to ask and go ahead and put it in and say why. And then the city then has, they've got the whole thing, they've got the whole.
Right.
But anyway, it starts now, and so this is a
Yeah.
good time to put it in.
The ballot, it's for the special election, right? The state is asking
Right.
to increase sales tax, I believe,
Hmm.
to cover for the lost federal funding.
Specifically for Medicare.
That's
Yeah,
kind of what-
yeah. So I
I
can speak to that.
think, was it that for the state? I think that was a state request.
State level.
Yeah. State level.
It's Measure A.
Measure A.
Yeah,
So is this something that the city can do to?
we.
It's too late for them.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, so I think the county's overall budget is like $8 billion. And when they did the math of like all the Medicare cuts that they were expecting to lose like 1 billion in total, which was, it's huge, right? So that's why they put on the Measure A ballot. And it is specifically to try to like, they list it's for medical services, right? And so that's their way of trying to make up the difference. I mean, if you guys would want to propose a ballot measure for a sales tax, I mean, anything's possible, right? But that has to come out as an official recommendation, guys. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions or comments that we would like to have before we close this? Session?
Before we close, we would also allow the public to comment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Do we have any people in the hall that would like to have a comment? And seeing none, do we have any online?
We have no hands raised on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Then we will close comments from the public. And so I think we can just vote. Do I hear a motion to accept the report?
That's the motion.
That's
Yeah.
the motion. Do I hear a second? I think Commissioner Jones seconded the motion. So can we take a vote, please?
Chair Cunningham,
Aye.
Vice Chair Narayan,
Aye.
Commissioner Joes,
Aye.
Commissioner Sripati, Commissioner Jindy.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
So this item is closed and we move on to agenda item 3. Agenda item 3 is a request for proposal for consultant for the city's below market rate housing program administration. And again, the recommended action is to receive the informational presentation and a role to play is approving it, but we do want to receive it. And we'll use the same process as we just did for agenda item. Our liaison, Nikki Gu, will make a presentation of this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So our next item is the below market rate administration request for proposals. So very similar to the last one, this is an announcement of an RFP. So we are requesting proposals from eligible consultants to administer the City of Cupertino's below market rate affordable housing program. The application for this period also starts on November 3rd, 2025. We did that just to be consistent, but it will close in December 3rd, 2025. We'll explain why in a moment. So the scope of work for below market rate administration is listed on the screen here. There's 3 general categories that we are looking for. We want the consultant to be first in all 3, and we will be scoring their ability to be able to do these, right? These 2 tasks. So the first is general administration services. That means managing the lottery and the wait list of applicants. That means utilizing city guidelines and procedures, including our specific city priority point lists, right? And then also public and city council whenever we need to make amendments to the program. The second is the BMR purchase program. These are for homes, for ownership in the BMR program. Being able to coordinate the closing documents of any resales and a marketing of the units with realtors for the buy and resale of homes in the BMR program. And then also for the BMR rental program, being able to recertify tenants for placement. To understand, income verification, and then being able to monitor the units, right, to make sure that they're being kept up to code. Also mentioned is that they should be able to act on behalf of the city or with the city when coordinating with developers and property owners, right? When we need to do enforcement, right? Of any of these regulations. Something particular to note is that we have expiring rental units within our program that we are expecting to see leave the BMR program essentially throughout the next coming years. And that will change, right, the proposal, right? We will have a different portfolio throughout the different years. And so costs should reflect this change and workload should reflect this. Something unique to the city of Cupertino is that we have an expedited application for renters that are living in any of these expiring units in order to reapply with the highest priority. This is something that was enacted by the city council in June 15th. And so being able to take that into account, right? Being able to be available to help these tenants, guide these tenants through the reapplication process to make sure that they are not displaced from the program. So in the evaluation process, there are a total of 100 points that they can get, 4 categories, 30 points in the first 3, 10 points in the last. The first is firm and project team qualifications. That is their ability to do that entire scope of work that I mentioned earlier, right? So that entire first slide, that is category 1. And the places where they can get extra points is if they have experience, particularly the area, especially in Silicon Valley, right? Southern Bay Area, Santa Clara County. The next category is pricing and costs. This is pretty self-explanatory. If you have an economical, very efficient sort of cost-effective proposal, you score higher than someone that charges a lot of money to do the same thing. The third category is work plan approach. This is us grading their ability to make use of effective procedures to make sure that is timely, but also clean, efficient, easy to use, right? Utilizing new technologies, not outdated systems, being able to coordinate between a lot of different government organizations, right? And then finally, the last category is called California Bay Area Integration. This is just us testing them of their knowledge of California housing law, right? There's a lot of changes that come through the state as well as through, our county government and stuff. And that affects how administration should be run, how well aware they are of these things will make it efficient for us to not have to constantly have to revise the program if their program is already aligned, right, with the state's prerogatives and with the county's prerogatives. How well are they using the resources that already exist, right, in the Bay Area? What are the broader push? What are the broader initiatives that are going on? How well keyed in are they to these things? So for funding sources, this will be unique to this next funding cycle for the BMR admin program. It will be through the city's general fund, right? This is through the direction of the city council. Last time we went to the city council on April 15th, the city council voted to increase BMR funding to the Mary Avenue project, if we remember, and directed staff to instead use a commensurate portion of general fund for BMR program administration going forward. So the funding source will be the general fund for this RFP. Now, depending on the cost proposals we receive and the amount of available funding that we have, we may consider multi-year contracts, right? If someone comes in with a cost-effective proposal, then perhaps we can consider them for maybe 3 or 4 years, right, of BMR administration. If it is not, right, then at most we can only offer you a few years. So for this process, we are accepting email applications to be sent to that email address on the screen, housing@cupertino.gov. You can also do it to my own if you have that, nikkiv@cupertino.gov. Now, for this one, there's also an interview process, right, where city staff will be meeting and convening with prospective applicants for the BMR program to kind of get a better sense of their specific program delivery, right, for that third category. So that is why we have it closed in December 3rd, so that throughout the winter, we can meet with them and discuss with them to get a clear-cut winner. And similar to the others, we will be bringing this, of course, as a decision officially to be finalized by the Housing Commission and then awarded, right, by City Council, as all things have to go through the City Council. So, similar to the last RFP, this will also be posted to the Cupertino housing website for people who want more questions. We can also email them the RFP if they have any questions. Cupertino.housing. It'll be posted on November 3rd, no latest, maybe earlier. Other than that, more questions can be emailed to myself. If you'd like to open this item now to clarifying questions from the commission.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and start? Commissioner Jones, would you like to begin?
I was just pointing.
Oh, you were pointing, oh, okay.
Sorry, I thought.
Vice Chair, I have,
Thank you. So do we currently have an administrator to do this?
We do. Currently, they're called Rise Housing. They can be found on our website.
So, okay, so we do this RFP every year?
No, we awarded them for a 4-year contract last time.
Okay,
And there's a set to run out in June 30th, 2026. So starting July 1st of 2026, we will need to have a new one in place for continuity of service. Yeah.
sorry.
okay, I'd like to ask a question. What is the value of the contract for a year?
So the value of the contract really depends on the cost proposal they submit, right? Hopefully it's something cost effective and low. I mean, the whole amount that we have budgeted, right, at least from what the council has set aside supposedly from their action, would be $1 million for the multi-year,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So we're hoping it's a lot less than that, right, per
So
year.
for a year, 250,000.
It's gonna, we're not gonna guide them on their answer to that. We hope
No,
they
but I
give us the most cost efficient.
We know what happened last year,
Sure,
the year before that.
yeah. In previous years, it was about 250,000
Okay,
per year, yeah.
So it depends on the contract. So last year was a 4-year contract. So every year, the 4 years are a little bit different amount. This is probably the highest of the 4-year contract. That's how we negotiated last time. So the first year was extremely low and then kind of accumulates towards the end. So Nikki's right. You can look at the average about 250. This year was a little higher, maybe around 300.
I'm just curious in general, I mean, some contracts are $100,000 a year. So I was just curious.
I think
What
it
that-
all depends on how we negotiate, what kind of services that we really, what they provide, what they put on the table.
Thank you very much. Just one second. Do we have another question? Just, and then I'll come back to.
Yeah,
Do you have a
thanks for
question?
giving us some background why we're going through this process. Apparently, the existing vendor contract is expiring, correct?
Yes.
So that, have we made any changes as far as the criteria of selecting the prospects? Any different from the previous applications? Maybe something that better can match our reality that has changed.
Yes. So the new requirement of being able to manage, the expedited wait list, right? That's a new thing that just started this year for tenants in the expiring units. That would be a new priority. And also the new category we added of being able to be keyed in, right, to California housing law and these kind of like emerging sort of initiatives, right, in the Bay Area. This because we want an administrator that can be like our partner, right, in these things, help us stay aligned, with California housing law and these things, rather than having to bring them up to speed too, right?
Did you have a follow-on question? I knew you asked a question last time. You want to just
I
say what that was?
I
was- it was
so
about-
Anit, you mentioned here that once you receive the application, is going to be the interview process, and that is managed by the city staff. I was wondering if it would be appropriate that commissioners also participate in that process. Simply maybe they hear and they get a good vibe, or they analyze, or maybe just give you kind of a second-hand of opinion and help altogether the city make the best choice.
So we are involving the commission in the process. That's going to be after we've basically selected an apparent winner. For you guys to basically make that final call, right? If you believe that it is, let me pull that up really quick. We're bringing it back to the housing commission. Can't find it, but we're bringing it back to the housing commission in March, same with the other form. Rubber stamp it with a recommendation to select or not select, right? The apparent winner and recommend it to the city council.
So we get like short list of apply for that or?
I think we would basically narrow it down to the winner and then maybe like have like our like a runner up or something mentioned, something like that. Yeah, just because there's a lot to consider and it would, yeah.
I have a question. I wanted to ask because I thought you were going to bring it up, commissioners. Last time we were talking about during the lottery process, if there was a way to make that more, transparent.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I thought I had talked to you earlier and you might have said something about that.
Right, I think that was Commissioner Jindy's request.
Right.
So we've checked and we found that I think there is a way that we can possibly post a recording of the lottery process, just so as long as we make sure that all names and addresses are not shown, so it's truly like anonymous. And there's no kind of infringements on privacy, that yes, we should be able to post a recording and we can even start it during this year, right? The recording of the lottery selection for the BMR waitlist.
Does that need to be?
Does that answer your question, Pete?
No, so that's already included, right? During the lottery, that's,
Okay.
yeah, that is included, yeah.
Yes,
So
Yeah,
post the
Commissioner.
recording means that after the fact, not kind of live people participating via Zoom or even in person. And of course, we got to make sure so no private information is being shared. I think
Yeah.
it will be just numbers displayed,
Yes,
and people who know the number will know
yeah,
whenever they land. So this is my recommendation to begin with. So make it very open to the public when it happens.
yes.
Again, we have to make sure so no privacy concern are being breached.
Yes.
So was that different from what you had said? You had said a recording, you didn't mean in real life, but we've got people that watch
Yeah.
this in real time.
So we do
So
it.
you, I thought.
We do it over Zoom. Yeah, we do it over Zoom. Basically, like they kind of show us like that they're doing like a randomization of like the lottery process, and city staff is present to confirm that. I I would have to check actually with the city attorney's office on letting people in real time.
I will say, sorry, Nick, prior direction from the city attorney's office was just out of abundance, consideration for privacy protection for these type of topics to avoid any sort of live, participation, which is why this is not, have never been advertised and invite the public to join, because that's sometimes very difficult to control the crowd and the environments, and really want to be able to do that in a secure and safe setting.
Yeah.
So we can certainly record it and post it just for transparency reasons, but open it to the public, that's not something that's advisable for the attorneys.
My concern, right, that immediately pops into my head is that like if we allowed people to attend, people might start wondering like if attending they were allowed to influence, to vouch for themselves. So I'm worried of that as well. So yeah, I don't know. I think probably for privacy and both making sure that there is no concerns in that regard, probably just posting the recording afterwards is the direction we would go in.
Commissioner Jones, you have a question, or comment?
I have a question. So currently we have a vendor or consultant wise. We're proceeding to vote on an RFP for a new consultant. Have we considered getting someone internal so that they have longevity within this community, who really can support our needs on an ongoing basis as opposed to relying on a consultant?
So running a BMR program is pretty daunting, right? It's a very big ask, and it requires a team, really. So it would require probably the hiring on onboarding of a couple of staff at least. Yeah. Cost effective wise, most small cities at least tend to do the consultant because one consultant can service many cities, right? So they're allowed to be able to hire that many staff and service all these different cities that might not have the largest portfolio. Onboarding internal staff to run BMR administration tends to be something more of like a city of San Jose, city of Mountain View kind of thing, because they've got the manpower to do it. Yeah, yeah,
Question.
yeah.
So Rice was a program administrator. They were also the developer of a unit, wasn't it? Like that, in one of those,
It's a great question.
so it's a conflict of interest?
No. Two organizations with extremely similar names. It's yeah.
Ah,
One is
Okay.
called Rise Housing and the other is called The Rise.
I
And
see.
the Rise is who's developing Velco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
No problem, no problem.
So there is a conflict of interest, right? The administrator cannot bid on for the fund.
Right. So administrators cannot be developers.
Yeah.
Luckily, this is not the case, just two organizations that both like the name Rise. Yeah.
Because then I don't need that. Are there any other questions? Comments?
I have one extra comment. Can we add in the RFP for them to, I mean, you had like evaluation criteria, we had like 4 items,
Mhm.
30 points, so 30 and 10 points.
Yeah.
Can we add references? For example, can we ask them to provide references of like if they work for other cities, right?
Yes.
So is there a category and can we get? that
Absolutely.
Evaluation?
Yeah, that's actually that first category, program experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get bonus points if they've done work for similar cities, especially similar cities in a similar area.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
if they can demonstrate that, they get bonus points. Yeah.
You have a question, one question?
To
Commissioner
such
Jean?
point,
Mhm.
good point. It sounds like they're not required to provide references, just simply they'll just list there the work they've done for other cities. They could have done the work that shows experience, but the quality, it's probably comes by people who.
We can add an addendum, asking them to provide that.
So also to look at it is kind of like when you ask for, when you recruit for staff, right? And people send in their resume. Certain level, we want to see their output, how they craft their materials and their applications, what they think is important, how they persuade the city to provide them with that point so they can be qualified and considered. So there's a balance between how much you want to kind of outline that ahead of time to kind of help them submit what they think the city might want versus them coming up with a package that they think will best describe their firm or what they do. So that's which is why it was not included specifically in our RFP.
In other words, it's part of the test, right? A BMR administrator that's worth their salt is gonna provide references so that they can kind of bolster their package. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure, you probably know who's prior to the rise, who managed our BMR,
Hello Housing.
same.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, people who created RISE were formerly staff that
Yes.
work under Hello Housing. So I wonder if we need to consider looking at that fact. If we want same people here that are just managing now and they simply change the name, they come up with a new organization, how's that going to affect our decision making?
It would definitely, I mean, we're definitely making sure that we're grading people on their merit, right? So even if they were the same people that changed their name, first of all, just because we're doing an RFP does not mean we are unsatisfied with their service, right? We're doing this because this is in the interest of fairness for competitive funding. And so with that said, if you know, RISE were to change their name, right, they would still be graded on the same 4 categories objectively that we previously mentioned, as well as any other applicant, right? So that's how we're taking that into account, whether they call themselves this or that or whatever. Yeah.
Or even if they keep their name,
Or if they,
they're welcome to submit as well to be considered.
Absolutely, yeah, so they should have the same.
Absolutely.
yeah,
That would be the basic requirement, right? Like, how long have you been in business and what was your previous name or whatever?
Yeah, that's really how you package
Yeah.
your submission, right? Once.
I have one question. Somehow, like when I was reading the scope of services, it seems pretty open-ended, meaning it doesn't specifically tell them, hey, you're gonna manage 10 different projects.
yes.
You know, because we have, the BMR funding is what, $1.1 million?
Yeah.
That's available for funding, so how many people are gonna be submitting this, right? So it's not very specific, so multiple people applying for this, responding to the RFP, you know, that's kind of a, do they give like what, hourly basis kind of a rate, or how does it work? Do they give like a lump sum? Or do they say, hey, if it's only 2 projects, then so much? It's just like, I was just thinking, if I were gonna apply
Yeah,
as an administrator, right, it's kind of very open-ended.
yes.
So how do you
So
make sure you get,
the way
Proper.
it's done is it's based on the size of the portfolio. So we are expecting applicants to do a little bit of research on like how big our portfolio is. We actually tell them at the front, but also knowing that it's gonna change, right? Some units might expire, and then also some units might get built, right? And so like they're then being able to demonstrate their knowledge of our housing stock is going to weigh in, right, into who we think is qualified. And that's how it's done. That's how the pricing is done. So you would assume for a certain number of homes in the portfolio, that's how many resales you have to do. For a certain amount of apartments in there, how many rental recertifications you have to do, how many monitorings you have to do, right? And so you can you have to do these things at least once a year, right? Monitoring, you have to do a certain number of results, a certain number of certifications every year. So you can make a guess of how many of these things you have to do per year. You can make your costs per item, and that's how you can formulate your yearly proposal. And then for anything not explicitly mentioned, then you could submit an hourly rate, right? For your optional tasks, right? We have an associate, a senior, and a principal, and anytime they put them on some kind of optional task, this is how much they would charge.
Do you have any questions, Tripathi, Commissioner Tripathi?
Not really, but I do have a clarification. Again, in the previous subject, you had mentioned that there's 250,000 allocated for BMR, right? Proposal for the next year.
Yeah, for this current running year.
Right,
Yeah, it's about 300,000 right now.
and that's again only for administration, not as rental or,
That's just for administration, that's right. Yeah.
is there a way to cut it down? I mean, it seems like we're just using too much money for administration.
Well, that's why we would do an RFP, right? That's so we can get a cost-effective, competitive proposal. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
One of the reasons I made a comment about internal source of resource versus a consultant is also look at the jobs. Like, do we have an obligation to increase the number of jobs that we're creating for the local residents by using this as a leverage, right? And so that was my thought,
Yeah.
especially in the economy that we're finding ourselves in.
Yeah.
Is that an opportunity for us to have greater benefit and impact in our own community?
That is a good question. Using the BMR program specifically, no, but if it was like a greater sort of city goal, maybe to like use city funds to stimulate the economy or to create more jobs, right? I think that would be something for the EDC committee, right? Decide that's something they want to do as a direction. But yeah, I don't know, actually. I don't know. That's a great question. Yeah.
Okay, hearing no, have we gone to the public already? Then I suggest that at this time we, go to the public, comments. Do we have any internal folks that would like to make a comment at this time? Hearing none, do we have any public line that would like to comment?
We have no hands raised on Zoom chair.
Okay, thank you. Then public comment is closed. And I think at this time that we would be able to take a vote on receiving this report. Do I hear a motion? Commissioner Jones has a motion, and do I hear a second? Second. And Commissioner Sripathi has seconded the motion that we receive the report. Can we hold the vote, please?
Chair Cunningham,
Aye.
Vice Chair Narayan,
Aye.
Commissioner Joes, Commissioner Sripathi.
Aye.
Commissioner Jimmy. Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. That item is closed, and so now we can go on to the next agenda items, but staff and commission reports would be next, and normally we'll see who else is staff report first. You have a report this evening?
Just one. Just wanted to introduce you guys to Vanessa, who is a new assistant housing coordinator who started with the city this week. Will be joining us for this meeting as well as upcoming housing commission meetings and supporting this commission alongside myself.
And I, as the housing chair, who have been here for 6 years, say, welcome aboard. It is time for there to be more staff in the housing division, and I certainly appreciate you being here. So welcome.
So much to learn and you are in good hands. Oh, yeah, so.
So on that, then are there any other commission reports or places that you've been that are of importance to us as a commission? None, hearing one, I will only say that there wasn't a mayor's meeting this month, held every other month. But I will remind you that on Wednesday next is the commissioners' dinner. It's October 29th, 5 o'clock at Queen Center. And we will have not only the commissioners' appreciation dinner, but the Crust Award announcements. So it'll be a very fun evening, and we'll get to not only see each other in more informal session, but we'll get to meet Commissioner Sharp and all the other commissioners at that meeting as well, and see the bodies. So that's my only mention of the. And then lastly, before we adjourn, we do have future agenda setting. And just as a reminder, it's not a discussion of the agenda items, but it is a discussion of what agenda items we might have. And so what happened in September, our last meeting, we did find out that the anti-displacement survey would be heard in December. September, we heard be heard. The anti-displacement survey, which was something we wanted to be in December. And the request for additional funding then to replace the HUD funds can be heard at that meeting as well. One thing that I had thought in those terms was that the funding for Project Sentinel should be increased. I think that comes out of our BMR AHA funds as well. They handle market rate as well as below market rate renters. And so all renters need to be aware of these tenant protections. And I recall Yui He, who was a previous commissioner for us, she actually was priced out of her home and apartment. And she was paying full rent, but the way they did it, it just kept going up and up. So she eventually would do Mountain View. So an important thing would be to see if we couldn't get more renters aware of the tenant services that are available to people that are finding they're getting priced out of their apartments. So anyway, that's combined. Sometimes, it just adds a little bit. But then in March, you had mentioned that changing the Housing Commission charter to add permanently that there be a renter on the Housing Commission is going to be discussed at that.
I think that would be. Okay. And I think the topic will officially just be called like amendments to the charter for the Housing Commission charter. Add special representative seats.
Okay,
And a renter seat could be considered, right?
okay, because there might be others that are being considered at that time.
In case you guys wanted to suggest others, right?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, or staff.
Okay, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Just
Because
in
of
case.
course, Commissioner, he did suggest that one specifically, and it is, but I do recognize that it is one of many
Yeah.
ways that you can slice and dice our population.
Yeah.
So probably do want to discuss it. Okay, and then lastly, but not leastly, we received an email from Vice Chair Narayan on October 14th, talking about the various homelessness issues are going on, and she was asking questions about what might go on to the future agendas. And so Nikki and I did discuss those.
I think for your requests, what we can definitely do is definitely tie it into a lot of the agendized items that we have coming up, because I think they are very important and they definitely fit into some of the things we want to talk about.
Yeah.
So stuff relating to bid count, stuff relating to expanding services for homelessness, right? I think that would probably fit pretty well in with the request. Well, first of all, we're gonna bring that back anyways, right?
Yeah.
When the feasibility is done, so that's definitely when it will come up. Then also, I think you asked about preservation of units. We discussed it previously for the last anti-displacement policy. We can bring it up again, right? Or at least do a refresher. So
Yeah.
in December, we can talk about
Yeah.
that again there as well. I'll try to accommodate that. As for the development related questions, we definitely don't want to step on the purview or anyone's toes of, say, the city council or the planning commission. And so typically the housing commission as a recommendation body to the city council, what you can do is maybe you can attend, like a planning commission meeting, right? Like similar here, or a housing commit, or a city council meeting and make comment as, you could say I am a housing commissioner, but today making comment on behalf of myself, kind of like similar to the chair Sam Rao does.
Yeah.
So that you can weigh in on those issues there. Because we know that those will be agendized items, at least for those two bodies. So that's how you can probably participate.
I'll also add that in the Muni Code, when it talks about the housing commission duties and the responsibility, it specifically identifies the housing commission as a recommendation body to the planning commission
Mhm.
and the city council.
Right, yeah, it is,
So you can make a recommendation
Yeah,
to, yeah.
I guess I was just wanting to add to, for the benefit of everyone here, is that I know I had mentioned to you about the housing element.
Yeah.
The housing element is something that was approved in September 4th, 2024. Is a plan for the next 8 years for how the city plans to build market rate as well as below market rate housing. So within that document, there are a number of planning strategies and goals, excuse me. And so the strategies each have goals underneath of them, and the goals have what they're gonna do and what a planned time is. And I was looking into it on behalf of some of the questions that you have asked. And excuse me, for instance, the small emergency shelter, that's it process, oh, that's what Nikki said. But finding city-owned or underused land for prefab and modular housing, there is 5.1.6, which talks about the prefab and modular housing. So I think if each of us becomes more familiar with the housing element, what the goals are that are currently there, we get some better ideas about how to assist in that. Because the city's gonna be working on those things, that's what happening, it's all about, so I thought I would just recommend it to you. Yeah. Because for instance, one of our goals is the BMR AHF fund. And that's something that we have, and that's been worked on quite a bit from what Nikki has told us before about the kind of funding that is in there. So I'm just, I was real pleased when I talked to Nikki to find out the kinds of things that, supported my. So what is,
so is, yeah, so I think that I really appreciate that, for the housing element, maybe there's a way for the housing commission to take those and try to aggressively push that, to say, okay, it's there. Let's
right,
see
bring it
some
up on
action.
bring it
I
up
know,
on
it's like,
the thing.
right,
Yeah, absolutely,
we see it in words,
absolutely.
now let's see some action.
Well, and that's
Right,
what the
that's
goals
the-
have, they
yeah,
have
yeah,
actions
yeah.
established, so
That's-
yes, absolutely.
You're actually kind of right on the pulse of it, because when in the purview of the housing
Mhm.
commission, it's
Yeah.
it's to weigh in on an action of policies and strategies in the
Yeah.
housing element. So that's kind of what I've been using as a tool, right, to
Yeah.
bring things like anti-displacement.
Right, yeah.
And homelessness policy, which previously wasn't really considered as much before by the city,
Uh-huh.
now to the housing commission, right? Now that we
Yeah.
have the
Yeah,
housing
yeah,
element
yeah.
kind of explicitly
Yeah.
laying
Yeah.
it out, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that the housing commission, the housing commission, excuse me, the housing element has made a big difference in the focus of how work is done in the city, and I think it's gonna be some good changes coming. Nothing ever happens as fast and as people, as advocates would like, but it nevertheless is a plan or something that people can look to and see what's in there. You have a comment?
Yeah, I
Angela?
do. As one of the newer commissioners, what's the best way to get up to speed with the projects and up to your point, housing element? How do we get up to speed so that we understand and level set so that we can really, be informed to be better engaged and be valuable to this commission?
So the hard way is to read the whole thing, and it's very, very long. So you can do that, and that's the most comprehensive way. The faster way is if you zoom in onto just the like the strategy plan area, where they break it down. There's like 60 strategies in 5 different categories. And it basically it looks like a work plan, right? It lays out what staff needs to do by what year. And how many people we should serve by each category. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you.
That's available on the city site, the housing element.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go online and put in.
I think it's yeah.
There's a good, I remember I tried to read it for an interview for the commissioner position.
Yes.
I was trying to read that.
Yeah. It's a pretty big one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if you focus on the strategies and goals.
Yeah.
And there are also attachments that tell you in columnar format. So, okay, so actually, we are discussing it and it's great, all great stuff, but we're not supposed to discuss it too much because we're going to have different agenda items coming up. So I think if this is the last thing is the agenda item, right? Agenda setting is last. Yeah. You know, I put it all in tabs. You think it would be like. It has a problem. Oh, what comes next is so at 6:40 PM this evening, I